Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my review of part 2 of the Netflix original series, Lupin. Now, if we are going to check the timeline of my release videos for today, I will stop binging Netflix series Trese, the Filipino series, because it just hit me E3 is today, and I'm about to make the coverage for it. I'm gonna watch the coverage for E3, so that's exciting. I think I may watch Trese after E3 or after a special the E3 broadcast events. And Trese, since it's a Filipino Netflix series, I'm gonna do it in full Filipino review. So that's what you will expect from it moving forward. Now, for Lupin Part 2. So, we pick up where Part 1 left off. It was where Asan and Claire were searching for their son Raul. So, if you remember, Raul was kidnapped by the assassin, the stalker hired by Pellegrini. So, from there, Asan met Gadira, who is one of the three cops that are tasked for the investigation of the robbery of the necklace in episode 1 of part 1, if you remember that. So, Gadira and Asan team up. They chase off this guy, the guy stalker. I believe name is Leonard. So before they continue with the chase, they hold up into a gas station. Of course, Gadira went into the gas station first because he has to inform Pellegrini and his cohorts, his cronies, that there's quite a problem and they have a boy. And then they stop by. Asan asks questions if they've seen Leonard, and then Gadira talks to his partner, his female partner Belkagem, I think, the most beautiful woman in this series. She is a sight for sore eyes. And the funny part is Gadira masquerades her as his wife, and at the end of the call, he stated, "I love you," and then Belkagem just like awkwardly goes, "Huh?" like that. So the story kicks up. It went into the abandoned mansion where Leonard hides Raul. It was a showdown between Lupin, Asan, with Asan and Gadira. And this is Asan and Leonard. So the road trip between Asan and Gadira establishes the connection between the two that will be featured in this series, as Gadira will be Ganimard. So, who is technically Ganimard? I've googled this on radiotimes.com. The I think Ganimard is like a character in the original novel by Maurice Leblanc. So, Ganimard was Asan Lupin's dog nemesis, whatever that means. So, if you're familiar with the anime, it could be Zenigata. But they are always at odds with each other, and they have a comparable intellect. But they have some reluctant team ups, I think. Okay. So in the end, Asan manages to fend up Leonard, but the killer guy outsmarts Asan and seems to presumably burn down the car that was actually holding up Raul all along. So Asan looks at the imminent, probable, or could it allegedly death of his son when episode 1 ends. Episode 2 ties up the loose ends of episode 1, and we're going to get a pattern of the series. It just states how Asan got arrested by the cops because in episode 1 Gun and Mard contact them, but and also reveals that Gadira helped Raul escape. And from there, Asan finds out that because when the police investigated the crime of the scene of the crime, there was no body in sight on the trunk where Raul was allegedly burned down. So at a sigh of relief, Asan manages to trick the cops, escape, and goes on to rescue Raul, which is now being held at the Hyatt Hotel because Leonard actually got the information that Raul escaped with Gadira, and since Raul works for Pellegrini, Pellegrini informs Dumont, who is a superior to Gadira, to take the kid back to them, which is on Hyatt. So held captive by Hyatt at Hyatt, Assad manages to conjure up a scheme on how to rescue Raul there by faking a voice. I guess it was Pellegrini's voice, if I recall correctly, and then ends up with Asan taking his son. Payoff here is that there's always a plan B by Pellegrini. Is that Claire is being surveillance by Pellegrini's men, and if that happened, and they suspect that Asan will take Raul back to Claire so they can get Asan captured, but not the case. Claire warned Asan to go, so Asan manages to escape Pellegrini's men. Episode 3 is how Asan made a plan to take up the grudge because, as you can tell, he's not happy that Pellegrini took his anger upon his son, so he's gonna take it upon his daughter. So Asan made some advancements towards Juliet here. He allegedly robbed a painting, stole the bracelet, Claire's bracelet, because Claire and Asan had a fallout earlier, and now they're mad at each other. They had a fallout, and if Juliet would only say yes to Asan, if Asan manages to steal a rare bracelet that Claire happened to bought by her boyfriend on the store that is owned by Benjamin. So we go through that. This is like a collaborative effort, and in the end, it was all a ploy by Asan to get Claire to talk to her mother about the death of his dad, the corruption of Pellegrini, and confess it to Gadira, and the episode ends with Pellegrini arrested. Episode 4 is about Pellegrini being acquitted by his charges because he has connections with the government and decided to go upon Asan. Asan is now a wanted fugitive because during interrogation there is Pellegrini saw the face of Asan. He said it was Asan job, so they've known who is Sanin in a sense. Then we got a new character introduced. It's Cobert, something like that. And other than that, he was introduced as a broker, like a power broker, like good investor for that can increase the corruption of Pellegrini. So Pellegrini likes the idea. He hired this man. He trusts it, and we get a little more sense on what is this. They're going to be holding a concert, which will involve charity donations involving money, and that money will go most of the portions to Pellegrini's bank account in a separate country, I think. Since Asan, we got also some a plot where Benjamin hates the dog by the dead journalist dog. I forgot her name, and then brings it over to Asan. He was followed by Leonard. Leonard was killed by one of Pellegrini's men inside Asan's apartment, I think. That would be like a frame up job. So after killing Leonard, the killer called the police. Asan wanted just to escape, of course, but this has been a frame up that Asan killed Leonard, which triggers the thinking of Gadira that Lupin, since Asan's crimes are based on Lupin, it does not make sense that Asan kills because Lupin is just a gentleman thief. Lupin doesn't kill. Then, going further into the story, it was more of a escape. So, we got another scene where Benjamin has been followed by the same killer as Leonard. He managed to escape with Asan's surveillance help, and then they escape towards another safe house near container vans, and then again it was taken up by the police after investigating Asan's apartment. They went into the catacombs for a great escape sequence. There happens to be the very map that Asan and Benjamin got during when they were children. They were in school. Happens to contain a secret passageway inside the catacombs, and that was Asan used to escape. Episode 5 ties all loose things. We learned that Paul Corbray or something is actually an accomplice by Asan. This is the plot twist that I got PogChamp, that I was surprised that happened because I didn't see it coming that he was an accomplice. So what happened, because in episode 4 there was a time where Asan fake retrieving a briefcase to a wealthy individual who happens to know Pellegrini. They spot on the names. That's how they got info to create the character that Corbray will play in front of Pellegrini. So due to this, they managed to sneak inside the concert, and this is where the plan has all manifested. Also, Asan leave a comment on a random news page which Gadira saw and analyze, which Gadira happens to see. So this is like my only nitpick, because for this plan to 100% work, Gadira has to check news comments to see that one specific comment for Gadira to analyze. This analysis leads to evidence of Dumont's corruption and strong evidences against Pellegrini, which in turn he reported to his superiors, to the hot lady, and to the other Gadira. I forgot his name. Gadira's boss. Let's just call him that. And they actually side with Lupin, technically. So the confrontation on the concert happened. Asan knife holds Pellegrini in that specific section that Colbert point out where Pellegrini would sit. Pellegrini would expound all what he did as a confession. Asan had it secretly recorded on his watch, but that was revealed at the end. So it became an escape sequence because Pellegrini informed that Asan is inside the concert. Everyone is searching for Asan. Asan revealed himself into the main concert hall, exposing Pellegrini of everything. And then, as the cops and the SWAT team are about to arrest Asan, Benjamin turns out the lights. Chaos ensues. The concert is over. The accomplice and Benjamin escapes. Asan escapes stylishly inside a disguise, saying Asan was found in the rooftop. But a few cops caught onto him. There was a point that Asan's met Gedira and company. The hot girl detective points out a gun on him, but Gedira says no. It's like, drop your weapon or something. Stop right there. But no, they arrested Officer Dumont for the corruption. Asan escaped. He met up with his wife and kid, Raul. And yeah, end of story. Pellegrini arrested. Dumont arrested. What can I say? This has been a thrilling ride. Part 2 is more linear than Part 1. And I appreciate the things that they alternate from plot, resolve, alternation between episodes. This is not more of Asan being a flashy thief, because that was already exposed on part 1. But this is more of Asan under circumstances of pressure. How can he do it? And also a dissection on Asan as a character other than being a Lupin fanatic. That being said, I found it thrilling. The escape sequence was thrilling. And if you suspend your disbelief for a moment, you would think Asan would not make it. Even the climax, you would think Asan would fail. Because of how good they booked Pellegrini as the perfect foil to Asan's plan. Like every time Asan got something to go one up over Pellegrini, ever since part 1, if Asan wants to go one up on Pellegrini happens to go one step further. And finally putting to rest at the end of episode 5, it was all worth it. I enjoyed Lupin. I'm looking forward for part 3. I don't know if the accomplice would be now a part of their team, but I sure hope so. Because even though it was a bit too late in the episode that he was introduced, his plot twist worked. I never expected that the corrupt individual, the power broker or the investor presented to Pellegrini, was an accomplice by Lupin. And this was the most subtle plot twist ever in this series. Everything else, like the briefcase recovery, was, you saw it coming, that Asan planned it. Maybe the Juliet date was also as Asan planned. Maybe the catacombs, you know that Asan would make it out because of a secret tunnel. But that one accomplice scene where he recruited a random Lupin fan who is actually good at pointing out any mistakes and dress up as a decoy to Pellegrini is a genius plot twist. It actually worked for me. So, what do you think? I think this series is worth to watch. If you look into minor details, you can appreciate it. If you can suspend your disbelief for a moment, you can appreciate it. I for one, I'm looking for this Audible audiobooks for the Maurice LeBlanc novel itself. I'm looking forward to listen to them at some point and at some time. So that's my take on Lupin. Looking forward for part 3. Thank you for watching.